Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. At the Father's feet, B.V. Narasimha Swami. Alighting at Tiruvannamalai station on the morning of 1st September 1896, Venkataraman beheld his promised land in the starry pointing towers of Arunachaleshvara's temple from afar. As with the Saint Nanda, the very sight of the towers filled his soul with joy, arising not merely from the sense of achievement, but also from the close proximity to bliss itself. With quick steps and a pounding heart, he proceeded straight to the great temple. The gates of the 3 high compound walls and the inner doors were open. There was not a soul beside him there, and it looked as though the Father was thus preparing to welcome his beloved Son, who marched straight to the inmost shrine. This was the supreme moment of his life. He stood a while there in ecstasy and then left the sanctuary. He had sealed his future and delivered it over to God. When he saw the stone lingam, he felt that it was not merely an external physical object, but the omnipresent, all-pervading spirit that had drawn him and was still drawing him away from his old life. When Venkataraman, or the young Swami, as we may henceforth call him, left his father's presence, where did he go? His choice was his father's immediate presence, that is, the premises of the great temple. According to the scriptures, Shastras, the proper residence for an anchorite, Parivradaka, is a temple, a hill, a cave, the foot of a tree, or the banks of holy waters. And the young Swami found the temple, as many others before and after him found, to be the most convenient. The very atmosphere of it is pure and laden with spiritual power. The constant peals of the temple bells, the frequent streams of pious visitors approaching their God with Devaram, Tirupugar, and other hymns, the processions of the sacred images followed by youths chanting the sacred Vedas, with the very accent and intonation which the rishis, the seers of the forest, employed thousands of years ago. If, however, one wished to get away from external contacts and to commune in solitude with himself or his God, the precincts were particularly suitable. There were the flower garden, the plantain garden, the higher chambers of the numerous towers, especially the skyscraping eastern tower of 13 stories, and many a nook and corner of this vast temple measuring over 2 furlongs in length and 1 in breadth, and the numerous minor shrines in it. All these provided adequate solitude. The ascetic has no need for secrecy, and he has nothing to keep or lock up. Foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of God hath no place to call his own. Every place is his. The earth's surface everywhere is his bed. The trees are his umbrellas, the moon his lantern, and all the folk he meets are his brothers and sisters, father and mother, providing him with food. Was the young Swami ever troubled by the thought of his next meal? Never. Never has he troubled himself to think, what should he drink, what should he eat, and how should he be clothed? His Father knows his needs of these things, and he thinks only of his Father and his self, which is the kingdom of God. On the very day of his arrival, he had aimlessly walked to the Ayankulam tank and thrown away the bundle of sweetmeats given to him at the Kilur Bhagavatar's house, saying to himself, to this block, i.e. the body, why give any sweetmeats? As he walked back from the tank and came near the temple, someone accosted him and asked, do you want to have your tuft of hair shaved off? Yes, replied the young Swami, who was immediately taken to a barber and had the entire hair on his head shaved off. He then tore his cloth into shreds, and wearing one of them as a loincloth, cast away the rest, and all his money, amounting to 3.5 rupees. He also removed his sacred thread from his body and cast it away. He was not going to touch, and never after did touch, money. These vows of austerity, of holy poverty, were essential details of the good path he had chosen, and they served to set off and support his high tapas. After his shave, he did not bathe, but addressed his body thus, mentally. Should this block be accorded the comforts of a bath, and passed on towards the temple. However, on the way there was a heavy downpour of rain, which soaked him from head to foot. So what he had thought to deny himself was granted to him by the divine protector at whose shrine he was going to worship. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. From Face to Face with Sri Ramana Maharshi, number 180. In French first. Raja Lakshmi était la petite fille de Venu Amal, qui était elle-même la plus jeune sœur d'Etchamal, une remarquable dévotie. Elle vivait à Chennai avec son fils. À la mort de ma mère, ma grand-mère fut complètement dévastée, incapable de supporter la perte de sa fille unique. À 11 heures, elle marcha du centre-ville de Tiruvannamalai jusqu'au Sri Ramanashramam de l'époque, qui était très éloigné, seule dans la nuit sombre. Elle pleurait de façon incontrôlée et tomba aux pieds de Bhagavan. J'ai vu Bhagavan pour la première fois en 1923 quand j'avais 3 ans. Ma grand-mère, qui servait à l'ashram, m'emmenait avec elle tous les matins et rentrait tous les soirs. Une fois, je jouais à la cuisinière en offrant des petits cailloux comme si c'était du riz cuit à Bhagavan, et je lui demandais de les manger. Bhagavan mit volontiers les cailloux dans sa bouche et fit semblant de les manger. Quand ma grand-mère protesta, Bhagavan répondit que l'enfant lui offrait joyeusement les cailloux en guise de nourriture et il ne voulait pas la décevoir. Une fois, alors que j'étais assise à côté de Bhagavan dans la salle à manger, j'ai demandé à ma grand-mère de me servir un peu plus d'un certain plat. Elle refusa. Quand elle s'apprêtait à servir un peu plus de ce plat à Bhagavan, il refusa pour la raison que les règles applicables à un enfant étaient aussi applicables pour lui. Bhagavan m'a enseigné le tamoul, le telugu et le sanskrit, en partant des alphabets. Il m'a aussi enseigné l'arithmétique. Le premier vers en sanskrit qu'il m'enseigna était tiré de Upadeshasaram. Finalement, j'ai appris les 30 vers et les récitais devant Bhagavan qui était très content. Bhagavan m'offrit une copie du livre Ramana Vijayam de Siddhananda Bharati, après avoir écrit mon nom dessus. Le livre raconte entre autres le séjour de Bhagavan au Patalalinga. Étant curieuse, je suis allée voir cet endroit au grand temple Arunachaleshvara, mais je n'ai pu entrer à cause de la présence de chauves-souris et de la puanteur qui s'en dégageait. J'ai raconté à Bhagavan mon expérience et lui ai demandé comment il a pu rester dans un endroit pareil pendant si longtemps. Sa réponse fut qu'il n'avait pas conscience de son séjour là, et il l'a pris par les autres. Ceci montre qu'il était complètement oublieux du temps et de l'espace quand il était à l'intérieur du Patalalinga. Dans mon école, les enfants jouaient au kolatam, un jeu utilisant 2 bâtons en bois. Je n'avais pas les bâtons pour y jouer et ma grand-mère n'était pas partante pour dépenser 2 pèses pour les bâtons. Quand j'ai confié mon problème à Bhagavan, il demanda à l'intendant Madhava Swami d'aller chercher une branche d'arbre à partir de laquelle il fabriqua 2 beaux bâtons et me les offrit. Au début de 1950, quand Bhagavan était très malade, j'étais à Lucknow. Ma grand-mère, qui travaillait à l'ashram, demanda à Bhagavan la permission de me rendre visite et ensuite d'aller à Kashi. Bhagavan lui dit que lorsqu'elle se baignera dans le Gange à Kashi, elle accomplisse son rituel pour lui aussi. Après être restée quelques jours avec moi, elle alla à Kashi. Et tandis que dans la soirée elle se baignait en pensant à Ramana, quelqu'un lui dit de regarder en haut. Et elle vit une grosse étoile filante brillante traverser le ciel. Et ceci s'est produit au moment même du Mahanirvana de Bhagavan.
Rajalakshmi was the granddaughter of Venu Amal, who was the younger sister of an outstanding devotee, Echamal. She lives in Chennai with her son. On the death of my mother, my grandmother was completely devastated, unable to bear the loss of her only daughter. She walked all the way from Tiruvannamalai down to the distant Ramana Ashramam at 11 p.m. on a dark, lonely night. She cried uncontrollably and fell at Bhagavan's feet. I first saw Bhagavan in 1923 when I was 3 years old. My grandmother, who was serving at the ashram, took me along with her every morning, returning home in the evening. Once I was playing cooking game by offering small pieces of stones as cooked rice to Bhagavan, and I asked him to eat them. Bhagavan readily put those stones into his mouth and pretended to eat. When my grandmother objected to it, Bhagavan replied that the child was happily offering him the stones as food, and he did not want to disappoint her. Once, when seated next to Bhagavan in the dining hall, I asked my grandmother to serve me more of a particular preparation. She declined. When she was about to serve more of the same preparation again to Bhagavan, he refused, on the ground that what was applicable to the child was applicable to him. Bhagavan taught me Tamil, Telugu, and Sanskrit, starting from the alphabets. He also taught me arithmetic. The first Sanskrit sloka he taught me was from Upadesa Sharam. Eventually, I learnt all the 30 slokas and recited them before Bhagavan, who was very pleased. Bhagavan presented to me a copy of the book Ramana Vijayam by Sudananda Bharati after writing my name on it. The book also tells the story of Bhagavan's stay at Patalalinga. Being curious, I visited that place in Arunachaleswarar temple, but I could not go inside due to bats flying around and the stinking smell from inside. I told Bhagavan about my experience and asked how he could stay at a place like that for such a long time. He replied that he was not aware of his stay there and that he came to know it from others. This shows he was completely oblivious of time and space while inside Patalalinga. In my school, children used to play kolatam, a game using 2 wooden sticks. I did not have the sticks to play. My grandmother was not willing to spend 2 paise, 1/32 of a rupee, for the sticks. When I told Bhagavan of my problem, he asked his attendant, Madhava Swami, to get a branch from a tree, out of which he made 2 beautiful kolatam sticks and presented them to me. In early 1950, when Bhagavan was very ill, I was at Lucknow. My grandmother, who was working at the ashram, asked Bhagavan's permission to visit me and then to go to Kashi. Bhagavan told her that when she took a dip in the Ganga at Kashi, she could perform the ceremony on his behalf too. After staying for a few days with me, she went to Kashi, and while taking a dip in the evening, thinking of Ramana, somebody told her to look up, and she saw a large bright star trailing its light across the sky. and this happened at the exact time of Bhagavan's Mahanirvana.
Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
Yenna Vendam song by Sadhum. Ai-je besoin? Ce dont j'ai besoin et ce dont je n'ai pas besoin. Tout cela, Ramana le sait bien mieux que moi. Il est le père et la mère de tous ceux et celles qui ont besoin de lui. Moi qui suis son fils, ai-je besoin d'aller voir quelqu'un d'autre? Il est juste que je demande et qu'il donne. Y aurait-il des choses bonnes qu'il ne souhaiterait pas? Il donne ce qu'il souhaite. Quelqu'un qui demande, pourrait-il être un devotee? Les actes de celui qui connaît tout pourraient-ils être mauvais? Y a-t-il une vie plus heureuse de qui ne désire rien? Y a-t-il plus grande béatitude que la connaissance sans pensée? Nous l'appelons notre Père, qui nous rend sans crainte. Tout ce que d'autres peuvent donner n'est que dérisoire. Il me montrera ce qui est bon à voir. Il maîtrisera mes sens et mon corps. Il me fera la grâce de tenir mon ego en échec. Il me fera danser au son de sa musique divine. Quand, quoi et où ai-je besoin de faire? Il le fera, dois-je le demander? Serais-je touché par quoi que ce soit, si ce n'est par le bien? Ai-je besoin de quoi que ce soit, ni de qui que ce soit, excepté Ramana? Traduit par Martine Le Petrec à Paris.
A conversation with Bhagavan. What is the value of the grace, Kripa, of a Sadguru in the spiritual field? How to obtain the grace? If sufficient quantity of grace is not received, what should one do? Which is the easiest way to permanent happiness? Is God really so merciful? These are some of the questions which arise in the mind, and the following replies of Ramana Bhagavan in this connection are very interesting and instructive. Question. It is stated that by the grace of a Guru, the highest state is reached in a moment. Is this true? Bhagavan. Yes. If the disciple is in a ripe state, the ajanana will be removed only by the look of the Sadguru. Question. Is the kripa flowing towards one proportional to one's merit? Bhagavan. If the vessel is small, the kripa that he receives will be small. If the vessel is big, the kripa will be proportionately more. Question. If the vessel is small, how to make it big? Bhagavan. The water in all vessels is the same. After a pause, there is no question of more kripa or less kripa for one who surrenders, saranagata. Question. What is meant by surrender or saranagati? Bhagavan. When one surrenders, there is no sense of agency in him. There will be udasina bhava, and he will not feel any anxiety about acts or results. He does not commence any work for his own sake, and he become a sarva aramba partyagi. Vide Gita chapter 14. He will have no ahamkara, feeling of I. The feeling of I, aham bhava, will vanish either by jnana marga or by saranagati. Question. In the books it is stated that Bhagavan is an ocean of mercy. Is it a fact? Bhagavan. Ocean. Ocean, sagara, as a limit, a boundary or coastline, but the kripa of Bhagavan has no such limit. It is limitless. It knows no bounds. This explanation of Bhagavan gave us great satisfaction, rose new hopes, and opened a new chapter in our spiritual lives.